Okay, guys, I'm going to do some Revit. So let's. I'm going to take the little house we were building over here forward a little bit more. I realized that the template I've been using is actually the previous one to the ones you guys have been downloading. They've actually made an updated one since I downloaded this last month. So the reason you're not getting, for example, over here on the left, 4 elevations, you're only getting 1 elevation, is because you've got a more updated template than I had when I started the project. So it's not wrong, it's just nobody told me, so not my fault. So I have this little house that we made last week, which has got a couple of doors in it and some walls and some roofs and not much else. What I want to start doing now is setting up actual drawings that we can print out on A3 sheets, so we can get the computer stuff and the hand-drawn stuff working together. If you go into Fronter and you go to my little website here, there's a line here at the bottom that says for important and essential links, click here. And this is the same, it'll link you just to the home page. And in here we've got the download, all the download links, but we also have title blocks links. So I'm just going to download an A3 size title block. And a title block is just like you're setting up on your hand drawings. It's a sheet that you can print out that has all the information about the drawing on it. Yeah.
Should we record this?
It's recording. Okay, so I'm going to go to A3 size. And you can see straight away it just downloads A3 metric Kia 2014, which is what I made it. If I just click on that, it opens up this title block that I've made in Revit. We have the Kia logo here. We have some drawing number stuff. We got project number, client names, all that kind of stuff. We don't want to alter it in this. This is called the family editor, but we don't need to change it because it's set up the way we want it to. The only time you would change it is if, for example, you wanted your company to have a specific logo here. You could take this picture out and you could reinsert another type of logo in there. And that's as simple as going into insert image, and you can basically find any image file on your computer. Let's just see what we got here. It inserts it as an image, and then you can kind of stretch it around until you get it to the right size, and then you can use it as a logo for your company down the bottom here. Because at the moment it's just this Kia logo, which is also just an image. Okay, so you can change it that way. So anyway, so if you're happy with the shape of it, you're happy with the type of title block we got, all you do is you come up to the top here and press this load into project button. So we have the title block ready to go into the project that we're working on. So we just press load into project. And then we get a message on the corner here, can't create this kind of element in this view in the current mode. And that's because what we're inserting there is a 2D element, and we're trying to insert it into a 3D object. So in order to have it in the right place, on the project browser to the left here, we've got all the floor plans, the ceiling plans, 3D views, elevations, but down the bottom we have sheets. And sheets is just your drawings. This is where your drawings are. This is where you assemble all the work you're doing, and you set it up on drawings to be printed out. So if I right click on sheets and say new sheet, you can see that there's a little bit of echo there. You can see that the family that I've just loaded, A3 metric Kia, turns up at the top here. So this is the family that we've just loaded. So if I press OK, then we have a sheet ready in the drawing. It turns up over here on the project browser. I can go in here and say, okay, I'm going to change the project name. Double click on where it says project name, and I'm going to call it Annex Project. I'm going to call this one Isometric View. And I'm going to say the client. I think the client is Jesper Care. And we can give it a number as well. So we're in 2015, and we'll just call it -1, 01. Looks more important. And then you can put in who does it. So I'm going to put in SHAO. and who's checking it and so on. So all this information that I'm changing in the title block here, it's not just changing in this specific title block, it's also changing in the overall project. So the next time I make a drawing sheet like this, it will automatically put all this client information, project information in. I won't have to do it again. The only thing I need to put in is whatever the drawing name is going to be called. We have the option to give it a drawing number here. At the moment it's set to the American system. I think it's called the Unicode system. But later on we'll talk about the SFB system, which is the more international way of coding your drawings. But basically, once we have this drawing, we can take anything that we've made. Let's say we want to take this 3D view. I can just left click, hold down on it, and just drag it across and pop it into the view like that. So at the moment it's too big for the view. So I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to stop in a second so everybody can catch up. I want to come over here and crop the view. So crop basically is chopping off the edges of the view so we can get it fitted on the page. So I'm going to go to crop view. I'm going to make the crop region visible so we can see it. There it is there. And once we make it visible, I can just grab these little points and drag it in until we get it to the right size on the sheet, like that. So there we have the 3D view. If I go back in and change that 3D view, I need to set views up. Okay, you might have this option here on the left where it goes at the top of your views. It says views not on sheets. So anytime you take a view from the project browser here and insert it on a sheet, it disappears from this panel here. You can switch that off, and I like to switch that off. So right click at the top here and change the browser organization to all. So that means it always shows all the drawings we have going here. Okay, it's just a little aside there. So I click on this, you can see the drawing we have has been modified. If I change this drawing, let's say we change it from a realistic view to a hidden line view, and then I go back into the sheet, we have here A13 isometric view, you can see it updates. So the whole point of Revit is that all the changes you make in the plan views, the elevation views, the 3D views, they constantly update each other. So there's never anything that doesn't comply or align with each other. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Pause. All right, guys. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Shh, 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 shh. I know Alan has been talking to you about module lines and dividing your building into structural dimensions, yeah? So the way to do that in Revit is you deal with something called grids. So if you go into the architecture tab, you have an option over here on the right called grid. And this is, if you're used to looking at blueprints, if you've ever even seen any blueprints, you've seen something like this. There's always a grid that controls the dimensional organization of a project. Usually you start off a project by drawing a grid. In this case I just drew it up quickly, so I didn't put a grid in there, so I'm going to draw a grid afterwards. So if I select grid, I come down here and we get these options: straight and some curved ones, and also pick lines. But I'm going to just choose one here and I'm going to draw it across, and you can see that it actually puts a number balloon on the end of the grid for us. Once I've done that, I'm going to select the grid again by pressing tab until I select it, and then I can drag this little circle out until I get this one in the right position. So we've made our first grid line. We can do some graphical stuff with it. We can switch off the grid head over here if we want and only have it on one side, but basically that's more or less what we want. Now I know this building is I can't remember what it is, but let's assume it's got 3 meters between the grid lines. Now I'm going to say select this one, copy, and I'm just going to select multiple as well because I want to copy more than one grid line, and I'm going to select and copy it down by, what do we use? What's a good grid here? Let's just say, because it's such a small building, let's make it 1200. Huh?
So you have to put studs at 600.
At 600. Okay, so let's make it 1200. So I'm just going to make a grid every 1200. And again, I can either do it graphically or I can just type in 1200. And we can do it this way. Or if I just undo that, we can get it automated by Revit if I just select it. And instead of using copy, I can use the array tool. Select array. And let's say we want 8 grids. We want to go from here. We want it 1200, and it'll do it for us like that. Okay, and you can see it also makes the numbering system for us, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. And I think we probably need one more in there, so I'm going to select that one there, and I'm going to copy it using the dimensional situation there. So you can see that if we were taking this design and we were converting it into something that was buildable, I would probably reorganize some of these dimensions a little bit so that it all fit within a grid, so it's easy to build. So these doors, for example, are just outside the 1200 millimeter grid. This is on the edge. This one is in the middle. So I would do some work rationalizing all that so it all works in the same way, because we want to be able to build it properly later. So let's just say, for example, we want to do this one. I'm just going to grab this edge here, and you can just grab and drag the wall out until the center line hits the grid line, like that. And let's just do the same one with this one. And you can see that it highlights the grid line as we do it. So I'm just doing this just to show you that after you've done your design work, you can then rationalize it in such a way that it makes sense, or it makes it easy to build. So once we've done the horizontal grids, then I can do some more vertical grids. So grid, and I'm going to start at the middle of this wall, just because it seems to make sense. And I'm going to draw it down like that. And once again, I'm going to select this end up here by using the tab button and dragging it up. So you can see that it continues the numbering of the grids. It goes from 9 down the bottom here, and it goes to 10 over here, but that's not any use to us, because usually you need to have a letter and a number in order to find the coordinates of a building element. So I can just click on this head and I can change it to A, for example. Once I've done that, I can once again use the array tool, and we'll make it 7, I think, and we'll do the same thing again. We're going to select it here, and I'm going to do across by 1200. And it automatically letters them for us as well, so A, B, C, D, E, F. And maybe I can see that we probably need a couple more there, so I'm just going to use the copy tool, and I'm going to copy this one to here and to here. And it seems like they're more or less lined up here, and this one I'm just going to drag in so that it hits the center line like that. It doesn't necessarily need to hit the center line of the wall. It just has to be the center line of where you're going to put the wall structure. So it might be 2/3 of the way through the wall or whatever, but we'll worry about that at a later time. Okay. So once I've done that, you can see that the house is now being kind of rationalized to a 1200 by 1200 millimeter grid. Will I do that again? Okay, so I'm just going to do one more thing, and that's to do with materials, because we have this house here, and if I switch on down at the bottom here, just check I'm recording this. I'm recording, yeah. If I switch down the bottom here and I turn on one of the colored view, realistic for example, it's just giving it this gray box, which means it's got no materials assigned to it. So the way you assign materials is you actually talk about the structure of the wall or the structure of the roof or the building element that you're dealing with. So if I select this wall here, you can see that the properties dialog on the right here just says basic wall, generic 400 millimeters exterior. If I go and say, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit it just to show you how you can change these things. So I'm going to use this as the basis, and I'm going to make a new type of wall. So I'm going to edit the type, and I'm going to duplicate it. And the reason I'm duplicating it is so that any changes I make to the wall don't correspond in all the other walls that have got the same name. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to give it a new name. I'm going to call it timber wall. And then Revit has to think for a minute. So timber wall. Okay. We get this dialog box here, and at the top line here under construction there's something called structure, and this is where we modify the layers within the wall here. So I press edit here. At the moment we've only got one layer in here called structure. So what I can do is I'm going to press this insert button, and I'm just going to insert more layers into the wall like that. So I've just put in, now we've got 4 things called structure. So now we need to organize it. So I'm going to put on the outside, I'm going to call it finish 1. I'm going to make it maybe timber. So I use this radio button here. Click on that, which opens up our materials library. And if I just type in, what have we got in here? We have something in here called siding clapboard. So I select that, have a look at it. It is something that looks like this, if anybody can see the image. So it's got some kind of timber to it. So I'm going to use that just as a starting point for the outside of the wall. And I'm going to select it. Yeah, that looks alright for the moment. Press OK. Siding clapboard. And now I'm going to give it a thickness. So I'm going to make it 25 millimeters. And I'm not going to make it a structural material because it's hanging off the wall. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put a air layer behind it. Just by category is fine. And I'm going to change that to also 25 millimeters. And behind that I'm going to put another thermal layer, and this time I'm going to put in some insulation. So I'm going to click on this here, and I think we just have some rock wool in the library here, don't we? Rock wool. Okay, it's telling us the search term was not found in the document. So there's no insulation in the actual project at the moment. So I need to turn on my library. So the way to turn on your library is this little button at the top here. If I press that, you can see that something has happened to my Revit and it's got no libraries in it. I think we're going to have to leave that to another time. Now that's interesting. Autodesk materials. Oh, we have Autodesk materials. .edu materials. Alright, there they are. Okay. So now if we type rockwool again, let's have a look in AC. I think they seem to have, in the new version of Revit, they seem to have taken out a lot of the materials that they had there previously. So let's just type insulation and see if they got anything in here that calls insulation. Okay, what have they got? Structure, wood joist, structure, steel. Okay, now they have rockwool. All right. So I can see rockwool in the library down here. So I'm just going to press this arrow and insert it into the project. So now it's in my project. And here we can play with it. At the moment it's grey, but we could, let's say, make it a yellow or something, so it comes out a little bit more in the scheme. And press apply. And press OK. And you can see rockwool has now come into the wall buildup. So we need to give it a thickness. I'm going to give it a 250 thickness. And if I preview the wall on the left here, this is the way our wall is starting to build up. So we got the outside layer, 25 millimeters of clapboard. Then we have thermal air layer. Then we have a rockwool layer. And now we still have this concrete structure behind, which we don't really need anymore. So I'm just going to change that to a, what do we change that to? I'm going to change it to finish 2. I'm going to make it gypsum. Gypsum wallboard, and I'm going to make it 25 millimeters as well. So now our wall looks something like this, and in section it looks like that, pretty much the same at the moment. So I press OK and OK, and now the wall we've been working on has been changed to this new type of wall that we have. You can see it's got the timber siding in there, and if I go into level 1 view, you can see that it's been given more detail than the rest of the walls. So it actually is showing the different layers within the walls in there, okay? I can go back then, and there's a couple of things I can do here. I can either select it and use this little property painter tool, where I can go around and say, well, I want this wall type to be here and here, and continue to paint the properties of the new wall around. Or I can just select all the instances in the view, and then I can come over here and change them to the new wall we made, which is called timber wall here, like that. And these are updating in the 2D view, but also in the 3D view. So you can see that it just updates as we go along, like that. All right.